Imagine going to this meet and you got your winner, not even just overall in your weight class, is 150 kilos ahead of you.
Kilos,
not pounds. Kilos.
That's almost 400-pound.
That's disgusting. I mean, I don't know who this Emerson Noble guy is. Hats off to him. 86 2.5 kilos at 90 kilo body weight is good. It's pro level. But just to be like, oh, John Hack's competing.
That'd be fucking demoralizing.
It's just like, well, I'm gonna try and win. I'm trying to get second place, you know. Like,
I think it's gonna take a 275 with Jesus numbers.
Man, it's just hard to say that.
Fucking alien.
The only person I truly believe in right now that could do it is if Colton took off the
we don't
wraps.
know what Juwan's gonna do at 198.
It's true. Juwan's doing some crazy stuff.
Juwan, if you look back at numbers, of course, at the time, Hack would have been IPF, which means he was drug tested.
Yep.
But Juwan dusted his 181 numbers.
Yeah.
Dusted them.
Yep.
So, I mean, just saying, you know, weight class to weight class, we don't know what Juwan will do at 198.
Juwan's crazy, man.
Juwan's a squatter.
He is something different.
He may be, nobody talks about it because he's not a super heavyweight, but he's probably the squatter, to be honest.
Yeah. With you. I mean,
that's the best way to neutralize a big deadlift.
This is true. He benches a house too.
Yeah, he
absolutely
he's does.
500 plus.
It still ain't Hack's knocking on the door at 6.
No, but he's regularly pressing 500. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah. I I think Juwan, there's a path for Juwan to beat him. Not saying you will,
right?
And I always hate sounding like I'm rooting for Hack's downfall, but I mean, it's
just kind of like.
It's like Alabama's up 21-0 on Georgia right now. Like,
right?
Did we kind of expect that? Yeah, but it's kind of fucking lame. you know what I mean? Like,
it's. I think we've said this before. It's kind of like, it's not as bad as like the Patriots, but it's like you always see them win, and it's kind of like, when is someone else gonna win? Like, we had this problem in WWE for about 4 years with Roman Reigns always winning. Always retaining the title, and he just recently lost this year, so it's like it's kind of the same thing because John Hack has probably been winning for about that long.
I mean, it's not much different than Attitude Era where it was pretty much Steve Austin and The Rock trading them off for
forever
because
it was just them two. But then again, like they were like the guys, like it was them, it was Undertaker. It was Shawn Michaels and Triple H, like the guys. Like everyone else is kind of the mid card, but they were the top guys. Everybody wanted to see them. Shane McMahon was actually pretty. Have you watched any of the Vince McMahon documentary yet?
No, I'm afraid it's just jar shit from my childhood. It might be a little bit triggering in some ways because we watched a lot of the Attitude Era.
Yeah. I want to watch it because I just find it very interesting, but I'm sure it's going to be disturbing. I saw a reel. It was kind of like a meme, and it was like this guy who was like all in WWE gear, and he was like, "This I haven't watched the Vince McMahon documentary yet, but I'm about to." It was like 3 episodes in, he like lost half of his gear. And he was like, "Yeah, I enjoy it. It's really good." And then he's like halfway through it or whatever, and he's like, I'm going to have to apologize to some people. And then the last one after he finished it, he's just like wrapped up in a blanket and he's just like silent. I'm like, yeah, I expect it to be that rough. I think Zach Rodriguez was talking to me about it and he said you learned some stuff.
That's the only time in wrestling I can remember everybody, whether you liked wrestling or not, watched it.
Yeah.
Everybody watched it.
It's getting up there now. Someone recently released stats and it was like Cody Rhodes was the number 1 merch of all like individual sports, whatever you would call it. As far as just like merchandise, he was just like number 1 across all sports as far as sales go. But then again, like saying that as opposed to saying like all the Kansas City Chiefs like nameless jerseys or T-shirts or something that have been sold to all the Taylor Swift fans. Like if you do like nameless stuff, he's probably, it's a different story.
If we had more time, it's something that me and Sandy would very much watch because Sandy thinks it's hilarious.
Wrestling?
Sandy thinks it's the greatest thing ever.
Especially Japanese wrestling is hilarious. It's super funny.
I mean, American wrestling's hilarious.
It can be.
Yeah.
Like there are some storylines that try to be serious, and some of it has been pretty good as far as like movie style entertainment. Honestly, like storylines were really good, but some of it is just really fucking goofy. Like for real.
I mean,
I was watching it regularly until today, because it's not on Hulu anymore.
I'm
so
not one of those people that I'm going to say it's fake because you still have to be athletic enough to do it all.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is all choreographed. But
yeah,
I mean,
some of it isn't. Like they have some. And I was. This is like podcasts and stuff talking to wrestlers that I've been listening to. Sometimes they choreograph like the entire fight. Sometimes it's just like certain moves in certain areas, like a finish and certain spots they call them. And then sometimes like especially with dark matches, they just kind of go with the flow and do whatever, which is kind of cool. That just be able to call a match in the moment.
Yeah,
that takes a lot of experience.
I'm sure. Yeah, because I mean they are actors too.
Yeah,
there's a reason why so many people have moved over from
that and
from
acting.
that to acting. So.
Yeah, Dave Bautista, The Rock, John Cena, like those are the big three that I can think of.
Only in a few movies, but
Steve Austin was in Kurt Angle.
I just watched a movie. One of my favorite movies has Kurt Angle in it.
You can go all the way back to Hulk Hogan, and Andre the Giant was in a couple movies.
Hulk Hogan, I just watched this movie, but he's in Rocky 3.
Yeah.
Yep. It's pretty funny.
He's something else, man. He is something else.
Yeah, that's different. They could have a documentary about him for sure.
I'm sure they do.
Probably pretty terrifying too.
Yep. 100%. Probably not as bad as someone like Ric Flair. I bet Ric Flair's would be horrendous.
Yeah, but is Ric Flair known to be kind of a shit person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know enough about wrestling to be able to tell you, but Hogan definitely took a little bit of a turn toward shitdom.
Yeah. It's really interesting is that like he still kind of like perceives himself as a good guy. He was talking on a podcast and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Christian and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Bro, you did some shit. Like, I don't know if you can, I mean, I guess anyone can say they're a Christian and do whatever the fuck, but like
people do all the time.
Yeah.
Different
idea of what
that's for a different podcast.
It's for a different podcast. Oh man.
Well, is that the show before the show?
I guess so. We've been talking for about 15 minutes. So.
Hey guys, welcome to the Sip It and Rip It podcast.
Hey.
I'm Zach. He's Nathan. You can follow us at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedios, at Sip It and Rip It. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good shit. Leave likes, comments, rate us 5 stars. Tell us we're great. Tell us we suck. Just tell us something. Anything you want to tell us.
I don't have anything to add to that.
That's the introduction.
That is the introduction.
That was the introduction.
That was.
Hello. We've been introduced.
We've been introduced for the 70, I want to say 4th time.
It is 74? I thought we were over 100.
Not yet.
No.
Nope, not yet. We haven't even hit 80.
I think I said in the show before the show that we were over 100, so we've done doing it long enough time to be over 100.
Yeah. We've skipped a few weeks and, had some stuff going here and there. We'll have another. I don't know if I should say this straight or wait until like we're quiet and private. But like I was thinking, because we're not doing an episode for Nationals, we might just get on live after Nationals and just kind of like, because I know I'm gonna want to drink, and it'd be a good time.
We could, yeah.
Just
we could set up a camera on
just a phone.
Set up a phone and in the house that we've got rented, and
drink some whiskey and Coke because that's what I want. After, whether it's drowning my sorrows or whether it's in celebration.
That's what you want.
I want a whiskey and a Coke and just sit down and probably eat some shitty food.
There'll probably be at least one night that weekend I go to the casino with Austin. But,
yeah.
Because I do like to gamble a little bit, but
I get that.
But yeah, I don't blame you either. I'm going to need it just because I'm going to, still depending on how y'all work out, I may run my ass off for 2 lifters that day. So
just like,
it could be as stressful as having, like, I've had 10 or 12 before. It could be that stressful if y'all are same flight, different platforms. Could be.
Depending on how close we are and stuff like that.
Yeah, it may work out beautifully and may be super easy. It also might be just fucking dog shit. Ideal situation is y'all are back to back, same platform.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be back to back on a lot. We won't be back to back on bench or deadlift, I don't think.
Deadlift's more likely than squat and bench.
Close. Well, I guess it just depends on how everybody else is.
Yeah.
You know, who's doing the same
I figure
weights.
you're going to be back into the pack on bench press, and he'll be back into the pack on squats.
Yeah.
Likely.
I'll
Should be about the same place on with you lifting last, because you do have higher projected numbers. Probably be 2 or 3 lifters away from each other on deadlift.
Yeah. Yep. Something like that. Yep. It also just depends on how our day's going too, and how everybody else's day. There's a lot that goes into it, so we really won't know.
But I've had this conversation with several people. You still got to play the game.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if somebody's stronger than you or not. You still got to show up and lift your best.
Mm-hmm.
And you never would root for somebody to get hurt or injured or anything like that. But you may go and the 3 guys we know are stronger than, I don't know about if there's 3. There may be 1. There may be 10. I don't know. Those guys that are stronger than you might have shit fucking days and get their ass drugged.
That's true. They might have an intense water cut.
You have to put it on the platform. So there's no like meet day's an equalizer, because not everybody has the same success with a water cut. Mm-hmm. Not everybody had the same success in prep. Not everybody stays injury free. Like, there's so many things that go into it.
100%.
If we didn't have to play, if we just knew who was going to win, there'd be no reason
to go out there and
to show up and do it. Yep. So it's part of it. That's the first rant of the day. It's probably going to be rant filled because we have no topic.
Tangent number 5. I can't remember.
Tangential. What do you got? Well, what did you do in the gym this week? Because you started back up. And by the way, I got to top the rest of your program.
Well, you don't have to do it right now.
Well, I'm not going to do it right now. I'm sorry. I was actually opening the music app for the next segment.
Okay.
But what did you do in the gym this week? Because you started back after a deload.
Yep. Pulled on the kabuki bar for the first time. Different. For anyone that wants to know, if you're not a member at the garage and have not pulled on a kabuki bar, patience. If you are a sumo puller, you will get a lot out of it, I think. That's the biggest takeaway that I got. I felt like if I was a sumo puller, then I could take advantage of how much bend it has, because you just don't have to you just don't have to pull as far. Conventional pullers, like, you get a little bit, but generally speaking, you still have to put, a significant more amount of distance in between the ground and locked out. Yeah. So, aside from that, I didn't feel like the knurling was that bad. Everyone was like talking about how it just dug into their hands. So I was like mentally prepared to like bleed.
Yeah, but me and you go strapless, chalkless all the time.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably less of an adaptation for somebody like me. I think putting all that shit's on the pain in the ass. If for nothing else, I'd lift barehanded because I'm lazy.
I feel that. I'll do chalk, but that's the most I'll go. Like, unless I'm like torn to shit, like if I'm bleeding or like raw, then I'll throw like my or I don't have Versa grips. They're like a knockoff brand, like Cobra grips or some shit. But like, I'll throw on some grips to kind of like keep my shit together so I can still deadlift. But aside from that, I'd rather just throw some chalk on anyway, because like it's the same thing with squats. Like, I would rather do something that I'm going to have to do in competition over and over and over again than do something that I can't do in competition and get away with it. Like, that's just me. Like, I would rather have all of my T's crossed, my I's dots, like,
before you get to the platform.
Yeah. I want to go in there.
It's almost like it's good to be well trained and have a strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like a lot to change on meet day for my lifters or for myself.
Yeah. So kabuki bar was interesting, but it was, it was fine. Like, it didn't bother me. I didn't go in there with any sort of stimulants or anything, because it was only 585 for 4 singles, I think, 4 or 5. So it was just kind of like go in there, feel it out, pull, see how it goes. Once I kind of got into like a more, and obviously this changes as you put more weight on it, the more bend you get out of it. So you really have to feel it out, and you really have to know, okay, I can feel the bar like all the slack is out of the bar. Now I can push off the ground. That's the big takeaway for me. Aside from that, we did some really, I say light for me is like 350, 355, three count pauses on bench, super easy, 3 sets of 3, felt like a deload. Yeah. Like, especially after pressing 400 for so long, it's just like, oh man, 350, that's it, easy. So did that, and then hit not a PR, but a very good 545 single on squat. It was very smooth. I was very in tune with my body and positional awareness and stuff, because that's the biggest focus I have right now on my high bar squats, because it's different. Yep. So positional awareness is really, really huge right now. So being able to kind of like guide my body down and know where I am in space, and really, and I've seen a couple of lifters start doing some high bar squatting for whatever reason right now, off season, whatever, and they're not like really digging their elbows forward. Please put your elbows forward as hard as you can and hold it there, because that is going to be the difference in you rounding over, especially if it gets heavy. It's going to be the difference between you rounding over, hurting your back. Like, it will hurt your lower back. The high bar is saving my lower back. Yeah. But if I let my elbows come out, my torso bends, especially when it gets heavy, you're going to get yourself hurt. So
that's good squat advice in general. But I think too, especially when people first make the transition, they still want to squat like it's low bar.
Yep.
And they push their hips further back. They don't sit down as much. They don't do like that. Well, then you're taking away the advantageous leverages of high
bar squatting. Yeah.
That's, you can't make the advantageous leverages of low bar work on high bar, because they're two different fucking squats.
Exactly. And that was one of those big transitions that I had to do mentally, because for a couple of times I was still finding myself guiding my hips back and like sitting further back. And that's one of the reasons why that 565 PR was so bad. It was because I lost my elbows forward, and as I was sitting down, I shifted backwards. So that put me in a bad position for a high bar squat. So as I've started going slower on the descent and really focusing on guiding my body, and I'm not going to say forward because that might throw some people off, but to me it's forward. It helps me to shift in a position where I'm staying upright the whole time. So it's more of a down, but if I mentally cue forward, then I'm not coming backwards. And I'd rather be a little more knees over toes than any sort of shifting backwards.
We might talk about that too, about because I've actually moved a couple lifters now from low bar to high bar. We might talk about that later in the episode about maybe when to consider the swap. I don't necessarily think you're done with low bar, but I think the instance that we were in, this was the more trainable, less pain.
This was the solution to the problem.
We could load it and progress it where we weren't able to load and progress high bar at the time, and low bar at the time.
Truthfully, like, you think about this, I go a whole prep and maybe a little bit after, because I don't know when I'm going to try and do low bar again, of high bar squatting, and if I get a ton of gains and stimulus out of high bar squatting for this long, and then I go back to low bar, who knows? Like, it might just be a whole nother ball game.
Well, it still is. It's not hurting your lower back now, but it's still strenuous on your back. It may be that your back gets better adapted to the load now, and in the future, a low bar squat's just not
going to tax it.
Not going to tax it as much. You know what I mean? That's the hope. But we just talked about John Hack just squatted 803 high bar.
Yep.
You don't have to fucking. Both of them count. It don't fucking matter which way you do. Ray Williams. He had the Ray Williams T-shirt that said high bar and conventional.
Yeah,
he sold that.
I am that guy.
Currently. You might be. Yeah, shit. It's okay.
Truthfully, though, the way they've been moving, and I feel so much more powerful in a high bar. There's another guy. What's his name? Russell Orhe. He squats high bar. Yeah. He's a really good squatter. He squats 800 pounds.
Shit, I see more and more of like a hybrid bar position, which is really what mine is too.
Yeah.
Just different as individual.
Yeah.
And
your
also
leverages make.
Sometimes, like I said, it's just about what's trainable.
Yeah.
A lot of us are better low bar, but if you're hurting too bad to progress it,
it's not going to do you any good.
It's not going to do you any good. Yeah, absolutely. You have to be able to progress it. So, it is what it is. Gym for the week for me was
mid.
Yeah, it's mid. I don't remember what I hit on the camber bar. Was it 345 on the camber bar?
I thought it was more than that, but
I think it was 345 on the camber bar.
You hit a higher close
grip today. Yeah. I had a pretty nasty close grip today. That being said, I got fucking buried by. I didn't get buried by 405. I lost it about 3/4 of the way up. I ran out of tricep, which is probably going to happen on a heavy
close grip.
Grip. That's kind of what you're fucking doing,
right?
You know what I mean? It's taxing your triceps. So, but I feel good about where I'm at because I haven't touched a regular bench press in a while. If I'm chasing my current flat bench PR on a competition bench PR on close grip, then I think I'm probably in a pretty good
place. Yeah,
pretty good spot. Yeah. Squats were squatted what I had to squat for stimulus this week. It didn't feel great. I hit pretty modest numbers, 415 for several singles. Did a whole bunch of drop sets. Just a lot of reps. SSB same way. Worked up to a little over 400 pounds for a few singles. Tons of stuff on drop sets and stuff again. Probably hit 40-50 reps both sessions. Yesterday was my front squat day. Didn't hit as many reps, but worked up to. I'm getting ready to kind of PR front squat, which would be cool for me. It's a very, very modest number. I won't say what it is because of how modest it is.
Front squats suck.
But they're becoming more and more comfortable. I don't feel like I'm wrestling a grizzly bear every time I front squat anymore. So that's going to help out a lot. Outside of that, man, it was just a lot of what I've been doing, just kind of chasing the pump.
Yeah.
It's the reason I'm doing heavy singles for confidence, but really, I mean, I'm hitting on every major barbell movement. Including deadlift. I'm hitting,
Yeah.
Deadlifts were pain-free, weren't heavy. I think I did a bunch of triples at between 405 and 455, something super modest. Drop sets, 365 and 315. Just moving, getting back used to that again. I've pulled double overhanded so long, I feel strangely powerful double overhanded and not so much with a mixed grip. That's concerning a little bit.
I guess somewhat.
So
not a bad thing to have a strong double overhand.
No, it's not.
But if you're losing out on your mixed grip,
still a little bit of pain with a mixed grip. So
that makes sense.
I do think though that it really wasn't ever a bicep injury so much as it was my tendonitis starting to flare up weeks before it started affecting my squat and my press.
That makes sense.
So that's good. I don't think I have a bicep strain or anything like that anymore. So seeing a massage therapist about that. I'm going to start working on that and then back with Ron in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
That'll be cool.
Yeah. Don't know if I'm going to talk to him soon, probably tomorrow, find out if, when and how he wants me to deload, and then probably start back with him, middle of October or so.
So before nationals, I figured you were going to wait until after, but
we might. I don't know. I kind of do have a hard on for training in new gym, so it might be a good time to just start back and just tell them what my schedule is and where I'm going to be. And
I would like to go to a gym. Like, I can't train. Like,
no, you can't. But I don't know. We're there till when, Monday or Tuesday.
I think we leave on Tuesday. So
you can go do pump work on Monday if you feel like to. I bet you don't.
So after Sunday,
I bet you feel like you got hit by a fucking train.
Three shots of iridescence and the heaviest lifts of my life.
You can come spot me though.
Yeah, I mean Desi will want to go.
Yeah,
like Desi will want to go to the gym. So,
and honestly, me and Desi and Sandy may want to go to the gym just to get away, not to get away from you and Austin, but
right?
Get out of the mess.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So,
I hear that.
So I don't think I'm necessarily going to change my plans just because I'm going to be in.
Yeah. St. Louis. I don't know what kind of gyms are going to be down there.
There's probably some good ones. I mean, it's
I'm sure
city.
There's got to be something.
A handful of great ones. So,
just have to look it up. Yeah. Ask Joe. Joe will be there. Like, Joe, what gym do we go to? Desi will want to find one sooner. She'll probably want to try and get a week pass or something because she lifts on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
We're leaving Thursday. Wednesday or Thursday.
I'm leaving Friday. We're leaving Friday morning. I think we have it set to we have the room on Friday, but so you could. Yeah,
but that being considered, especially if I'm going to be here that much of the week, probably going to just go ahead.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I was going to be gone for a whole week and kind of
Right.
If it was scheduled better, of course, you can't schedule better for a powerlifting meet because it's always on the weekend. But it's like a Sunday to a Saturday. I might be like, fuck it, I'm taking a break. But
yeah.
Splitting 2 weeks like that, I'm not taking 2 weeks worth of a break.
Yeah, that's fair. PR songs?
We need to mention Scooter's Coffee.
We do.
Sobriety is brought to you by Scooter's Coffee. Although we did not get to stop by. It wasn't on my way.
It's also late.
It's also late, and I'm a little overstimulated and a little over-caffeinated anyway, so part of it. But it's fucking great, and I'm really impressed with that.
That chai.
The chai protein power or whatever it is. Yep.
I got one for Desi, but we got the dirty chai, so we had a shot of espresso in it. And I actually don't think it was any better. I thought it was a little bit worse.
The regular one's the
I
way.
think the regular one's better. Yeah.
It's good and holiday-like.
It is.
In flavor. So it's a good time of the year to be sipping on that. I don't know that it's better than the peanut butter one, though.
I like
a peanut butter milkshake, so... And that's kind of what the peanut butter power reminds me of.
So what I've been doing is... a scoop of protein powder, a scoop of the powdered peanut butter, and then either almond milk or 2% milk, and a little bit of water, and shaking that up.
Pretty good.
It's similar. It's obviously not as good. It doesn't have ice cream in it.
Yeah,
but for a little macros, but that's been because I'm trying to cut down. I think I've got 3.5 kilos to cut or something like that. I'm trying to cut most of that in just body fat if I can.
Yep.
Because I've got a little extra to lose. So I've just been doing that instead of a meal at night. So haven't had any major issues as far as performance goes, obviously.
Yeah, that's good.
we had a good week. So
very. You got PR songs? I have just one today.
I'll just do one as well. I'll have to pull it up. But
mine, I've already put one song from this new record on there, but they released the whole record on Thursday of this week. And it's Mammoth's Hand by the Black Dahlia Murder.
Nice. I didn't know that album released, so I'm gonna have to listen to it.
I'm so happy that they're back at it after Trevor passed away, and I'm so happy that Ryan Knight's playing guitar for him again because I could care less about all the records that don't have Ryan Knight on them. Fair. I mean, I love that band, but they're better with him in it.
Exactly.
So, badass guitar player.
I've always, I think ever since I think it was Nocturnal, I was hooked on them.
Yeah, that's a great record, but it is the one before Rod not joined. Deflorate.
Deflorate is really good, though.
Oh, God.
It's good.
Yeah, it's fucking really good.
Was the Green album before? Or after? It was after?
That one's good. Not as great as Deflorate, but it's very good.
I can't remember the name of it. That album.
Is it not the... single name? The single was Moonlight Equilibrium.
That was not the name of the record, but I do love that song. That song rips.
Song's about werewolves, right?
It is.
Cool.
It is. Oh man, could just put that on there. But I had one. I don't think I put this on there, but I know I put a lot of Within the Ruins, so it's very possible. But Castle in the Sky by Within the Ruins.
I don't think that one's on there.
It's about Frank Castle. It's really cool. Lyrically, there's a
lot of killing.
There's just one, and it's kind of you will appreciate it because it's kind of like a "fuck you, Batman, I'm the Punisher." And I think let me find it real quick because I'm pretty sure I have it saved somewhere. Oh yeah, this isn't vengeance, this is punishment, and I'm just like, that's fucking badass. Like when he hits that line, it's just like.
Yeah, throwback to older episode of the podcast, we talked about who would win in a fight between Batman and the Punisher, and we agreed that the Punisher wouldn't bother fighting; he would just snap him off his fucking mopey ass gargoyle and be fucking done.
The only thing about that is Deadshot has tried that before too. Deadshot, Deathstroke, all of them have tried that before and didn't do it. So it's kind of like, I don't know, man. I'm not saying. The big thing is like if I think what we agreed on was if Frank showed up and Batman had no idea, just like legitimately Frank just showed up, I'm gonna kill Batman, probably. Like it's very unlikely that
the Punishers beat the hell out of better fighters.
I don't know.
And definitely similar ones.
Well, has he fought Iron Fist like hand to hand?
I don't remember. I would assume he would, just because
it'd be really hard for me to say.
There's the Kills comics,
Mm-hmm.
You remember from the 90s? And there is a Punisher kills the Marvel Universe. Yep.
No, there's Punisher, Wolverine, Deadpool, Hulk, I think.
Boy, those are rough fights right there. Much worse than Batman.
True.
Our nerddom is spilling over
into the powerlifting.
I'll say this though, with the exception of Peter Parker and Spider-Man and Eddie Brock and Venom, I'm a very, very big Batman fan. Not as big as Nathan is, but I'm a very, very big fan of superheroes that aren't super.
Yeah.
So
they're more relatable.
Yep. And I like a little bit of an anti-hero, and whether you like it or not, the Batman kind of can be sometimes.
He's like, he's a vigilante. Like sometimes he cooperates with the law, sometimes he doesn't. But at the end of the day, he is working outside of the law.
Yeah, but he's not Captain America. Where it's like God, guns, and glory all the time. I fucking hate Captain America.
Man, I don't know. I like Cap, but
I don't think I never was a big fan of the comics. First of all, with Captain America in them,
especially the very like beginning comic books. I mean, they were just like wartime like propaganda stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's all it was.
Yeah.
Like
I really badly hate the cinematic universe's portrayal of Steve Rogers.
Oh man, I love Chris Evans as
hate it so bad.
I really enjoyed it. But
Team Tony still to this day.
Man, he was it's hard for me. Tony wasn't wrong to be upset.
Tony is Marvel's Bruce Wayne now.
I mean, yeah. I mean, technically. Just kind of different use of the brain, I guess.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Team Tony.
I think the big difference between
Tony was wrong, but I don't give a fuck.
The big difference between Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark is that Bruce Wayne portrays himself as the playboy millionaire, but he's not, and Tony just is.
Yeah, but
that's
kind of fucking cool.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing. That's
billionaire
just like,
on both of them.
Billionaire.
By the way, yep.
Did I say millionaire? Oh, billionaire. Yeah,
that matters. Yeah.
It does matter. That B is a lot more money.
It's a lot more fucking money. 10 times at least. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
I don't know. Yep.
Comic book tangent over.
I don't know that it is. I got so fed up with the cinematic universe, and the beginning of it's so fucking good.
Yeah, I think
a lot of the beginning of everybody's stories are really fucking good, and then it just fucking peters off to the point, I didn't finish it.
Yeah, which is sad because Endgame is really good. The conclusion of the MCU is really good. There is a lot of like stuff in between that kind of sucks, but the ending is really good, and a lot of this, I think it's Phase 4, I think is what they call it. Not very good. I did really like Deadpool and Wolverine, but it was not really like a Marvel movie like it was. It was a Marvel Studios movie, but it wasn't like the same shit we've seen over and over and over. It was a Deadpool movie. Like,
man, you can go all the way back to the first Blade though, and those first stories about all these characters are so fucking
good. The Deadpool movie was a homage. Is that what you call it? Homage, whatever. Homage. It was an homage to Fox Marvel.
Yeah.
Like all the old school stuff. Like it was cool.
Even Thomas Jane's Punisher, even though John Travolta ruins that movie. So
he was
a fucking terrible overactor. I fucking hate him anyway. I don't like a lot of John Travolta movies.
But that movie, it was cool.
Yeah.
My favorite scene
it was very to me like Tim Burton Batman-esque, in that it was campier and felt like a comic book.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very much not John Bernthal's Punisher.
No.
That is much more
real.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that it was kind of campy and comic booky, but I love the Russian.
Yeah.
And that I really do.
Who played him? It was a wrestler that played him. Who was it?
It'll come to me in a minute.
I cannot remember who it was.
I mean, you should know.
I should.
I used to know and just be able to spit it out all the time.
Oh, man.
Also, if you're a car guy, that is a car movie.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of badass cars in that movie. A bunch of badass cars.
I just, every time I think of that movie, I think of the scene where he's got the guy tied up and he's got the popsicle. It's the best part of the movie for me.
Frank's GTO, though, is like a goat of movie cars, and nobody talks about how great that car was.
The thing about the Pontiac GTO is that it was so subtle. like as a car.
As a superhero's car too.
Just in general, just like as a car, it's very deceitful. Like,
well, I mean, because it looks like a Lamar. Like, and because that's what it was. It was a souped up version of that.
Right.
That was a lame ass grandpa car.
Exactly. It's very unassuming. You see someone pull up on that unless you know what it is. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a whole fucking. The whole fucking thing, like the whole movie, with the exception of John Travolta, is fucking amazing.
Did you watch the Batman with Robert Pattinson?
No, I have boycotted Batman movies since the casting of Ben Affleck.
Oh, that's a shame. So they have the spinoff of the Batman, the Penguin, and I watched the first episode, and it's really good. It is a mafia show.
Yeah,
like it's Batman characters, because it's Maroni. Yeah. It's what's the other big mafia guy's name? I wish I could remember. Anyway, but Colin Farrell plays the Penguin. He is so good. It's such a good show. That's
as much as I love Danny DeVito's Penguin. That's not the Penguin that I think about, like from like canon. Yeah, if that makes sense. Much like was it which one was Bane in?
Dark Knight Rises?
Well, yeah, that's the good one, but the George Clooney one, right?
Yeah. That was Batman and Robin.
Yeah. That Bane was not what I remember.
Yeah.
But like the new Bane, like that's very much
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy's Bane was very much like criminal mastermind, not a dummy. Like,
right.
Stuff like that. Like as much as I love Danny DeVito's Penguin, it was very much not.
It was not the Penguin.
Yeah, it very much not so. The closest ever has been, in my opinion, and the movie was crap, so everybody forgets, but Jim Carrey as Riddler.
Jim Carrey was great as the Riddler.
Great.
He held that movie together. He was so really good. Yeah. Like I watched that movie not horribly long ago, and every time Jim Carrey was on the screen, I was like, this is great.
With the exception of her not looking like Selena Kyle, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman's the best Catwoman. Love her as Catwoman. I love how absolutely batshit crazy she is. She is fucking batshit.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, when you go from that to seeing like Halle Berry's Catwoman, anything's gonna be good.
Yeah, I mean,
but I mean, I don't know. I think it's just different takes on the character. To be honest with you,
I thought the suit was much more like canon. Everything other than her being blonde hair, like,
right?
Like I feel like
movies didn't care about that back then.
Yeah, no, they didn't. But everything else about her was badass in that role, right, to me. But Tim Burton fucking rules though. Like
I mean, yeah. Did you watch the new Beetlejuice?
I haven't yet. No.
I've heard it's mid, but I've also heard. But Joey said he really liked it. So I don't know.
I mean, I think you have to, when you watch something super campy like a Tim Burton movie, you have to adjust.
That's true.
Expectations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
especially nowadays.
You have to recalibrate for, I'm not watching a normal movie, I'm watching a Tim Burton movie. Like, I love Edward Scissorhands. That movie is
weird.
It's weird, but it's incredibly fucking funny.
It is. It's like, really good. I like that movie too.
There's some social dialogue in that movie that's really just fucking spot on and hilarious, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, you have to adjust your expectations when you watch a Tim Burton.
Yeah.
They're great. Love them, but it's not like
different.
watching a regular movie.
Yeah, it's different.
But
I'm trying to think of some other directors that are like that.
Kubrick.
Very
much. Now, it wasn't campy, but I feel like Tim Burton, and at least in terms of color play and stuff on the screen, like Kubrick was very, very good at like just how things looked and how things presented. And Tim Burton is always like a lot of black and then all those crazy pastels.
Yeah.
Like and that's what's cool about the Tim Burton Batman movies, is because they feel like a comic book because of how over the top and how much variety you have from dark to light. If that makes sense. There's a whole lot of contrast in those movies, and that makes them feel like they're illustrated.
Right.
And that's fucking cool. But Stanley Kubrick, The Shining, Clockwork Orange, shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, crazy fucking movies to watch. Fucking really, really fucking good. All right. The first part of the tangent's over. We should probably talk about powerlifting.
Or some sort of lifting or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we've kind of talked about this before, but we talked about Nathan's transition from low bar to high bar, mostly being not because I don't think either one of us believe that you're better high bar.
I'm kind of on the fence right now.
Right now, you're better.
Right.
But the thing was, it was progressible and trainable.
Yeah.
Where low bar had gotten to the point where it was causing him so much pain, it was no longer progressible, at least in the moment. I think there's a very, very, very common stigma in powerlifting that you got to be low bar and you got to be sumo. Mm-hmm. I speak about this on sumo a pretty good bit. I think for the people that it works for, it works really, really well if you have the right leverages for sumo. But I really do believe that 90% of us are conventional pullers.
I mean, if you look at Zach Dion, we just had him recently. He has the leverages for a sumo puller.
It's incredible, by the way.
I think he just recently pulled 540 or something like that as a 60 or 70 kilo. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I know he's light. He's small.
Yeah, super small guy. I mean,
pulling over 500 pounds. That's
yeah. He's a very good powerlifter in general, but yeah, I mean, your leverages matter. So you shouldn't just be low bar for the sake of low bar.
Just because everybody else is.
Yeah, I mean, I just put 70 pounds on Logan Knott's squat because I was like, he couldn't hit depth low bar. Yeah. It's fucking terrible. Not that he was a bad low bar squatter, but he just struggled.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think he had the build for low bar. Yeah. Now all of a sudden we move him to high bar, squat depth fine. It's progressible. It's moving up. Strength going up. Mason Lindsay was right the opposite. He just squatted 434 in competition in April. Mm-hmm. He has since squatted 555.
Yep.
Since moving to low bar. And it's because his leverages were better.
For low bar.
So you have two extreme advantages, or two extreme examples of how they can be an advantage. And you shouldn't just low bar because everybody in the sport says you should low bar.
Right. Because
it's not necessarily better for you.
We talk about this all the time. You should practice both. Like even us conventional pullers who fucking hate sumo, you will get benefit out of practicing sumo.
Yeah, absolutely. Glute development's really fucking good.
When I started a block of sumo pulls, and I only did it for a block, but I noticed when I went back to conventional pulling, how much more upright my chest was because I was more positionally aware. So you develop different skills by... I
honestly think building the slack pull skill, which is very important, I feel like that's a little bit... It makes more sense and a little bit more natural in a sumo position, which is the reason why so many people can
pull really, a lot.
Use that leverage for sumo and really, really, really get it down the road. I feel like it'd be really advantageous for teaching slack pull. Mm-hmm. I think it's great for glute development. It's great for speed off the floor because it's really hard to break a sumo.
Yep.
Much easier to lock it out. It's not much different than spinning a block doing deficit pulls or, if you're bad at a lockout, doing rack pulls or anything like that. It's just another way to train. Yeah. So I absolutely think you're right. I mean, you should probably be practicing both of them. Low bar and high bar squats is no different. But I mean, bench press is a good example of this. For whatever reason, we do not tear people's bench press apart because they're a big man with a relatively narrow grip. Mm-hmm. You just say, oh, that guy presses 450 pounds. That's fucking cool.
Right.
But nobody ever says, man, his grip's really fucking close. Mm-hmm. Don't you think you'd be better if you had a wider grip?
Right.
I don't know why it happens with bench press. It just seems to be commonly accepted. Wherever you're most powerful and most comfortable, that's where your grip should be. No problem. For whatever reason, when people start talking about low bar and conventional or sumo and low bar, high bar, stuff like that, they're like, well, everybody's better low bar.
Yeah.
It's not fucking true.
Right.
We mentioned in the show before the show, Ray Williams, probably the best squatter in sleeves on the planet. Mm-hmm. High bar squatter.
Yep.
John Hack just squatted 803 today. High bar squatter. It can be done, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be better. Low bar.
Right.
It takes an eye. I'll be honest with you. You need a coach probably looking at you and being like,
right.
One thing, what happened for me with Logan was simple. He was in the middle of the training block, absolutely fucking killing his SSB squats. I'm talking about putting weight on every week. Mm-hmm. Wasn't taxing him a lot, was killing it. Comes up to his primary squat day, he's got a low bar, and all of a sudden it's 100 pounds less than his SSB. It's strained. It's not powerful. It hurts him. Yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, you know what? You're better. Since you're doing so much better SSB, maybe we should try high bar. Mm-hmm. It's not like some like fucking profound scientific explanation I have for you. It's just like, you squat better on the SSB, try high bar.
Right.
It's like, oh, fuck.
That's just where it sits. Like it's like a high bar squat.
You can hit depth now, and you can train it heavier. So,
right.
Fucking cool, high bar squatter. And like I said, Mason was right the opposite. You know, we moved him from high bar to low bar. I had a extremely wrong assumption because if you saw the two, Logan's a much taller lifter than Mason. I had a very wrong assumption that since Mason is shorter, probably going to be better high bar. Wasn't the fucking case.
Yep.
So, I mean, so even like naked eye looking at it, and I'm pretty good at identifying people's leverages and stuff like that. You know, you don't really know until you try it. Mm-hmm. And news for you, a high bar squat counts for the same as a low bar squat does. So,
did you hit depth and did you lock it out? That's
if you did those things, that's
that's what we're looking for.
You know, those are the requirements. You know, it is. I don't know. It just really isn't. It ain't got to be that. Not everybody's the same, and it ain't got to be that fucking. We're gonna do this because this is the way we do it in powerlifting.
Right.
You know. I mentioned in the show before the show, you see a lot more of like a hybrid bar placement. Mm-hmm. That can be better. I don't know why that wouldn't be better for some people. I mean, if low bar, high bar is better for some people, so it stands to reason somewhere in between would be better for people. So, I personally probably am a little bit more of a hybrid bar position too. But like I said, don't just fucking run with it because that's the cool thing to do right now. Because you could be leaving a lot of pounds on the platform. Isn't it? Have you ever thought about bench press though? Like, when's the last time you were in a comment section and somebody said, you basically close grip that, bro. You should take your grip out water.
I don't think I've ever, like, I don't think anybody cares. I genuinely don't think anybody cares. And I don't know why, but I've never, like, I see some people who will say, oh, I'm doing close grip today, or I'm doing extra wide grip today to practice this. And then when it comes to competition, like your comp bench, like nobody cares.
I mean, people talk about an arch. That's arch is, that's a controversial topic in powerlifting. But another way it talks about hand placement.
Right. It's the same as bar placement on your back. Like
same as feet wide or feet narrow on a deadlift. Like, I mean, but I don't know why that's like. And maybe it will be. Maybe it's cyclical. Maybe people start dumping on people that that have short, bench press grips. I don't know, but
I think it'd be wide grip though, because that's going to shorten the range of motion
the most. I mean, that's going to be what people bitch about the most probably. But I mean, shit, one of the best pressers I've ever seen, and Justin fucking nearly his grip for a regular grip bench press was where my close grip is today. Dude
good
pressed
for his leverages.
God awful amount of weight. Had well over 2 times his body weight on bench press and worked out fucking fine.
Right.
Nobody was in the gym being like, you know what, that was a decent 455. But if you just move your grip out,
you can get so much more.
Yeah, no, but they're quick to fucking tell you that about low bar sumo though. Like, I had a lifter who will remain nameless because she's no longer one of mine. I watched her numerous occasions outpull her best sumo conventional, and just will not make doesn't want to be wrong about that. Like, winning's not that fucking important to you. You're a conventional puller,
right?
You've done this probably 6 times with me. She pulled a PR conventional that she could not hit sumo, would not move from sumo to conventional. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it really
is. If you want to win, like if you just want to power, like if you just like doing sumo pulls, great. You can just like doing sumo pulls.
Yep.
But if you want to win, you should do what's most advantageous to you.
I'll tell you what was really wise. I'm going to blow some smoke up his ass and talk about how great he is.
Braun?
Richard, actually. How about Richard? He just did a meet. He did regionals sumo.
Yeah.
He said he wanted to train a block sumo so he knew how to coach sumo better. Mm-hmm. And he just, he knew he could probably pull a PR conventional, but he pulled the whole fucking meet sumo because he wanted that experience.
Right.
That's fucking wise. That's a cool thing. You can coach it better. You have a better idea of what's going on. He's a more patient man than me because there ain't no fucking way I move to sumo. So credit to him. But yeah, that stuff like that's fine. But you can't just it can't be like fucking square peg round hole all the fucking time.
Right.
Like sometimes you got to admit you're just better another way.
Right.
I recently thought, because I'm a little bit better right now on an SSB bar than I am on low bar. I recently thought, hey, maybe I'm better high bar. And guess what? I fucking wasn't. Know, it just, all right, well, we know now. It's cool. Like, I think, honestly, with the SSB bar, it's a matter of, honestly, I think it's just a matter of comfort. It hurts me less.
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with high bar, low bar. It was just, right now, this is a more comfortable squat for me. So, I mean, you're going to have that from time to time, being honest. But I mean, do what works for you.
Yep.
There's a handful, we talk about this all the time. There's a handful of things that are true for everybody. You were talking about elbow placement.
Yep.
Elbows forward or elbows to your hips, however you want to look at it, whatever you want to coach. That's incredibly pertinent to both types of squat.
Yeah.
You're going to get less of it on the low bar because where the bar sits. You're not going to be able to exaggerate elbows forward a whole lot. But just standing here, if you see me pick my elbows up, where's my chest go?
Straight up.
Fucking great
to the
cue,
ceiling.
you know, like bracing, true of everybody, true in every situation. It doesn't change.
Yep.
Maybe there's an exception out there somewhere, but for vast majority, like 1 in a million might do it different, and have success with it. But bracing's the same for all of us. Posture within your physical ability, pretty much the same for all of us. Postures change based on low bar or high bar. You're not going to have a perfectly vertical chest on a low bar squat. Not going to happen. But we want a flat back. You know, shit like that. Reasonable. But like outside of that, foot placement, I mean, grip placement, all that stuff depends on your individual ability and your individual mobility. Like, I don't know. I do think that there's a lot of like stigma, and we're powerlifters. We squat low bar. We pull sumo. I just think it's fucking stupid.
You know, I will say this as far as kind of like nitpicky things. One thing that I get really annoyed by, and this may just be a personal thing. I just recently saw a kid out squatted me, so no disrespect to this kid, but super, super wide stance low bar. And every time it started to get heavy when he was coming up, knee valgus, real bad. And that for me is just like one of those things where I'm like, man, maybe you either need to not be squatting that heavy and you need to practice on your knees out, or maybe you just need to bring your feet in, so that doesn't exaggerate so bad.
I do think, and I actually had an old head in SPF tell me this, as we were actually at the meet that I hurt myself. We were at your meet, or your first meet, and Jesse was like, sumo pullers were eating shit that day.
Yeah.
We're loading up huge openers.
And not pulling them.
And not fucking pulling them.
Yep.
And he just, I'm standing over there because at this point I'm just coaching. I'm out of the meet because I've hurt myself. And he's like, these kids should pull conventional. I was like, why do you say that? He's like, they're pulling sumo because they think it's fucking cool. He's like, we pulled sumo because it was the best advantage lift in the suit.
Right.
He's like, these kids are conventional pullers.
Right.
Like, well, you really couldn't argue with them when they're going 1 for 3, 0 for 3 on their deadlifts after a pretty great meet up until that point. Like, and I think that now that we've moved to the US, well, what was the USPA into the WRPF, what's now the PLU, I think we have no shot at the SPF whatsoever. I think we have higher quality coaches, so you see less of those ridiculous misses. But I do think it's square peg round hole all the time.
Yeah.
I really do think the vast majority of those are conventional pullers.
No, I mean,
really do. Like,
I think it just goes back to the coach being able to understand what's more.
Yeah, and listen, I tell people this all the time. We pull whatever wins.
Yeah,
it's how we pull. You're better sumo. Let's go for it. I just moved Chris Treese was pulling sumo because it was hard on his back to pull conventional.
Yeah,
he pulled sumo, and he'll tell you this, not very well for a long time, and it took him as far as it could take him. He moves back to conventional, and all of a sudden, his form's better, a lot better, like markedly better. He's hurting less, and he literally went from a 500-pound sumo pull to a 600-pound conventional. I mean, like, he was doing it because he hurt, and that made sense for a long time until it just didn't make sense anymore.
Right.
It's like, man, we're standing, before I moved from the old Alpha location into the garage, we were standing back there one day, and he's like, man, I just feel like shit. I'm going to pull this. He had missed a lift, and he's like, I'm going to pull this conventional, and it flew. Like, no problem. That dude has honest to God, the longest reach I've probably seen on anybody. His arms are probably 6 inches longer than mine.
Mm-hmm.
If there was anybody advantaged for a sumo pull, it would probably be Chris.
Right.
And better conventional.
Right.
I was 100% convinced that he was a sumo puller.
Mm-hmm.
He's not. It is
Right.
what it is. I have girls, though, the opposites happen. Like, can't pull something conventional, move them over to sumo. Had men do the same thing. Like, Alston's a really good switch hitter. He can deadlift about the same either way. Just feels better pulling conventional. You're going to have that sometimes. But I really, really, really think that people see somebody like Colton pulling those huge deadlift numbers,
900
Jamal,
something.
Dan Grigsby, and those are incredible lifters. And let me tell you something, they're damn good conventional pullers.
Yeah.
But they think that they're going to be better just because those guys are better,
right.
and they're not.
Right.
Those are 1 in a billion athletes.
Right. And they're also built for sumo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if you look at their builds, like, they look like
long
sumo
arms,
pullers.
Shorter legs. Like,
Dan Grigsby is the ultimate sumo puller.
Yeah,
if you look at his build, he's fucking gorilla arms, and he probably scratches shin like gorilla.
Grip strength, unreal. Like, all those things. I mean, it makes sense. Like, but not all of us have. It's much less common to have leverages for sumo.
Right.
Like,
I think that makes sense. Because human anatomy, typically, like the standard human, your hands typically sit at your hips, right, or under your hips, whatever. Like.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But, I mean, also, too, I mean, the advent of sumo was because it advantaged the suit more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 100% true. You stretch that brief out more, like, going to get more help from it. Makes sense. Like,
same, like, if you look at how all the equipped people squat, it's the same thing.
That
Super
advent
wide
of low bar
stance.
is the same goddamn thing. I mean, I still think there's definitely people that are better advantaged low bar and raw squatting than they are.
Yeah.
And I would say there's probably more of us advantaged low bar than there is high bar.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily true for everybody.
Right.
And that's the whole point of this conversation. Like, I think, some assessment, it might take a block or two. It might be something like I had with Logan, where it's just like, this ain't working. Something's got to change. You're better this way. Try it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it just worked. You know what I mean? Like, yours was 100%. I mentioned this before. Yours was 100% need based. Not 100% sure. You're not 100% sure that you're better low bar. I know you're kind of 50-50 on it, but the great thing about high bar is it does advantage your low bar a little bit. So if you want to move back, there's no guarantee you won't be better low bar.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, you were in a position where low bar wasn't progressible because of pain.
It was literally
high bar was.
It was literally to the point where it was like, can I even put a
There was days
opener
days that 4 plates was not great.
Yeah, it hurt.
So, and now, you're squatting PRs high bar. I'm not saying if you wasn't in pain, you couldn't have done those things low bar.
Right.
But it was progressible and loadable, and you could train it without hurting yourself.
And, truthfully, sometimes I think about this, and I don't know, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I spent a lot of time with Joe developing quad strength.
Yeah.
So I wonder sometimes because Logan's same way, coming from like a more bodybuilding style.
Great quads, very strong quads.
Yeah.
Like can rival Austin on a hack squat or leg extension or something like that.
Is that kind of like a determining factor in that's why I'm so much better, because I'm recruiting my quads more. I have a lot more quad than I do hamstring or glutes or whatever. So
you do have really strong hamstrings though.
I have fairly strong hamstrings, but I've always thought that my squat was significantly smaller than what I felt like my quad strength was. I always felt like I had big quads,
sure.
but I could never squat a house like all these other guys.
I kind of feel the opposite. I've struggled mightily on something like a hack squat, a leg press. Like, I mean, like everybody, I can leg press 4 or 5 plates pretty easy, but like, I'm not chasing PRs on leg press either.
Right.
But
we're also
I've always felt like
depth.
it was a little, yeah, we also do hit depth, but I also feel like, man, this guy's, watch somebody like Austin or something on a leg press, or Mason, like 8-9 plates aside for sets of 10 to 12. I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Don't know what to say. And what's funny is I have my quads develop quickly. I have big quads, but I do think that they're probably a weakness. Yeah. But I mean, again, that goes back to, I think there's definitely something to that. I think 100%.
Potentially. I don't know. It just kind of was.
But a bigger quad's not a problem for either squat.
Right. No. You're using your quads either
It's an
way.
advantage for, a bigger, stronger quad is I mean, people don't talk about it enough in the deadlift. It's a necessity in powerlifting. Like, you need big, strong quads. I mean, the better deadlifter we become, do you not feel like you slowly start to feel a little more quad dominance in the deadlift?
All the time.
Like, foot placement's a big deal, right? Like, used to, a good example of this, the CrossFit way, all your weights in your heels, you gotta, standing back, leaning back into it, shit like that. Well, you're not using hardly any quad when all your pressure's in your heel.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you start getting into your forefoot more, and you're able to actually push off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
When people say this, it's a push, not a pull.
Mm-hmm.
But until that fucking clicks, and you start actually feeling your quads operating the deadlift, you're really not fucking deadlifting much. Yeah. I mean, it's a big fucking deal to find your quads in the deadlift.
Yep.
I can imagine, I'm not a sumo puller, but I can imagine it's probably fucking huge there. Yeah. Especially as hard as it is to break a sumo off the floor.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have some quad strength to get it moving.
Mm-hmm.
And then your hips and back, take care of the rest. But, like, people don't talk about that enough. Like,
right.
I mean, even I've said on this podcast, and I still believe it's true, we all need more tricep, more lat, more ass.
Yeah.
More quads, never a fucking problem.
Oh, yeah.
Not at all. Like, so.
I mean, I was talking to Austin a week or two ago, and I was talking about what's his name? I think it's Gabe Didden. I think he's like he used to powerlift. He doesn't power. He retired. Young guy, biggest fucking quads on a small body I've ever seen. I'm talking like his quads are as big as my back, like just absolutely huge. And I was like, that's what I want my legs to look like, proportionately. Yeah. Like not his size, obviously, but like proportionate to him. I want my quads to be that.
I think some of this lack of quad dominance too, and I think you do see it in powerlifting, especially on lower levels. And I don't think enough of us train like we do, but not enough of us train like bodybuilders.
Yeah. You get so much balance, and we've talked about that before, but having balance in your musculature is incredibly important, because it's the moment you get imbalanced in your strength and your muscularity is the moment you get imbalanced on a heavy lift, which throws off your position, and you
before
just fail
you even
your
get
lift.
there, it's imbalance in the joint.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're talking about higher likelihood of knee injuries, hip injuries, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think enough of us we should spend most of the year chasing a pump.
Yeah.
Not enough of us do.
I mean, you look at someone like Joe who programs, like I ran the meet prep with him. We had 2 different days. We had our bodybuilding days and our powerlifter days, but every single day there was some amount of pump work.
Yeah.
Like even on my powerlifting days, it may have been squat and bench together, and then we've got a fucking list of chores to do after that. Like it was literally like 5 or 6 exercises, not a lot of time spent like on them, but like it was like you go in here, you do a bunch of work really quickly, get your pump, and then that's your day. And then the bodybuilding days we're focusing on getting a pump. We're focusing on, I forget what it's called, but there's a term that they throw around, but it was essentially just like getting a pump.
Yeah, and we talk about something Joe brought up with you. He actually brought it up on the podcast that didn't air because it didn't. All that shit happened.
Recording issues.
That shit happens. But you want to learn. The barbell is not the best place to learn how to grind something out.
Yeah, because you're gonna fail when you grind something out. You're gonna fail.
There's a high possibility. Also, it's a higher risk of injury.
Mm-hmm.
But like we do a lot of plate loaded chest machines.
Yep.
Great place to learn how to grind out a bench press.
Yep. Because you can just sit there with it.
It's controlled. It's it's a fixed range of motion. You're not going to hyperextend anything. You're not saying you can't get injured because you can.
Right.
But the likelihood of it's much less than a barbell. You can load it up probably heavier than the barbell. Mm-hmm. Shit, I'm fucking that incline machine at the garage. I have 6 plates a hand.
Right.
I am a long way away from a 6-plate bench press.
Right. About 585.
I'm a very long way away from that. But like you can load it up and it's safe. You can move it. Like that's the place to learn to grind.
Yep.
A lot of people lose bench presses high because of lack of tricep and front delt. You can grind out a tricep extension.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to grind there. It's okay to fail there. You just let the fucking thing go and you're not going to hurt anything. You know what I mean? Like There's so much fucking value in training like a bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's my whole off-season plan is to just like, I want to cut, after nationals, we're going to, take a little break, eat some food, kind of like just chill. Probably about January, I want to cut to 220. Not in January, but starting in January. Yep. Cut down to 220 over 8-12 weeks, something like that. Whatever. I'm probably gonna do the RP Diet app and follow it and just let it kind of guide me. Cut down a little bit of weight and just like focus on getting a good composition.
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on legs hard.
I feel like this is something we harp on all the time on this show, but I mean, if you look at the guys that win, and they are not fat people.
Nope.
On almost every level. I mean, with the exception of super heavyweights. Mm-hmm. But I mean, shit, even if you look at somebody like Dan Bell or Jesus, if you don't think those people are incredibly muscular, you're fucking... Dude, that guy, Jesus Oliveras, he could probably barely stand on his fucking room.
Right.
We wouldn't have room for him if he was a guest on the show.
For sure.
Mean, like,
we would have to move the
Ray was the same way. I'm sure Dan Bell's the same way. Like, these are not just fat, unathletic people.
Right.
These are people that... they're athletes.
I mean, he's not a power lifter, but Bobby Thompson, the strongman, huge, massive dude with abs.
Paulo Dwyer, the Irish guy. Of course, he has the big Instagram following because he calls everybody a cunt. But I mean, that dude is shredded. And now he's not on, he's not, he is an international competitor. He's not somebody you're going to see on the platform. Like on the, you're not going to see him hoisting the first, second, or third place trophy, more than likely. Extremely fucking good, though. But I have a strong man that's about to come to me in October or November. Local guy, you know him. Mm-hmm. One of the things we talked about is like, dude, you can look at the fucking platform at World's Strongest. I mean, look at the winners at World's Strongest Man. Like,
I mean, look at
the Stoltmans. I understand that they're probably a little bit on the chunkier side, but you look at Martins, you look at Halfthor, you look at the Stoltman brothers. Mm-hmm. They are not, or even Brian Shaw later in his career. Mm-hmm. Now, he was still better than everybody, but was ravished by injuries and never got to show it pretty much his last 2 or 3 World's Strongest Men. But those were not fat people. Mm-mm. They were incredibly large, incredibly muscular, but that's not somebody that you would look at and say,
that's just some fat guy.
That's some fat guy. Yeah. Gone are the days of that in powerlifting, World's Strongest Man, every fucking strength sport that you can think of, that is not what wins anymore.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that we've learned over the course of time when it comes to these strength sports is that it's, yes, like we've said a million times, mass moves mass, but muscle mass
moves more mass than fat mass does.
Yeah. So like
fat mass isn't working for you.
The reason why everybody was like, I need to get bigger and they put on all this weight is because it gave them more muscle mass.
Yeah.
But they didn't stop to think, I need to lose the weight. Mark Bell did, to his credit. Mark Bell did. But a lot of these guys didn't think, I need to lose weight, cut down, and then build it back up.
Yeah.
Because powerlifting has weight divisions, we have this kind of like, well, we have to be as muscular as we can.
I'm a 308, I got to weigh 308.
Right.
You don't have to fucking weigh 308.
Yeah.
You need to be as big as you can in that weight class without being a fat fuck.
Exactly. You need to be able to be uninhibited by your own body.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Mike, this is a bodybuilder talking about this. Dr. Mike talked about this though. Your diet and your body composition in either direction should never be so few calories that it affects your gym performance, and it should not be so many that it affects your gym performance.
Because if you try to go in with a stomach full of food and you try to
especially bad food, a bloat or heartburn when you're lifting heavy, I can't think of something more miserable.
I would want to throw up.
Yeah,
I probably would throw up.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to learn that the hard way because I've had shit diet for most of my lifting career.
Yeah.
That fucking sucks. It 100% does. And a lot of people forget too, when you're on a bulk, I have somebody that's relatively small now just come to me. I have him on a bulking plan and all of his food's relatively clean. Mm-hmm. Now he has some concessions that he gets that somebody in my situation wouldn't get.
Right.
But for the most part, it's the same food and just a lot more of it. Mm-hmm. People forget that if you actually eat clean, you get a lot more food. So if hunger's the issue,
right?
If you just want to eat more, cleaner food is a pathway to
more volume.
I mean, But that being said, if you're doing it right, good food, bad food, you should be so sick you should be so full you're fucking sick.
Yeah.
If you're bulking. But that's also, even that's not necessarily true though, because that's the reason why we have things like the vertical diet, things that are low FODMAP, or that's the reason why a lot of us prefer white rice to brown rice. Mm-hmm. It's not because brown rice is bad for you. It's because brown rice makes you bloat and you feel like shit when you put on a deadlift belt.
And it tastes worse.
It does. Yeah. The texture of it sucks. Like,
it does. It's chewy and disgusting.
I do not want my rice to be the texture of oatmeal.
Right.
And it's either super dry or it's the texture of oatmeal.
Yeah.
That's the only fucking
I've
way
only
to do
ever
brown.
had it super dry, and I always hated it. It was like
fucking sucks.
Like chewing on fucking gum.
There's so many ways to manipulate that, but it's those days are fucking gone.
Yeah.
And we have people. John Hack just proved it again.
Highest dot score of all time today.
Better body composition wins these things.
He was 92 in the 98, which is
192 and 198. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I was thinking kilos. He was 80. Was he 87 kilos in the 90 kilos?
90 kilo class.
Yeah.
But he even said it. I looked at this post before we started. He overshot and would have liked to have been a little bit heavier for the sake of a total.
Mm-hmm.
And he said in the same post, I guess I'm going for a DOTS PR instead of a total
and he
PR.
Did.
Yeah, he did. Lo and behold. But Dan Grigsby's a heavier athlete, 275. Very, very well built dude.
He eats clean. He just eats a ton of food.
Just eats a lot. It requires eating a lot. I do think that there is a point of diminishing returns when you're going to have some calorie dense food when you're bulking. You know what I mean?
The hack there really is nuts.
Yeah, because it's
super
very
high,
little volume, super high calories,
and it's just easy to eat, and it's got a lot of fiber in it. So that should be, in my opinion, your clean bulk food is just adding in lots of cashews.
Great for your heart and brain too, by the way.
Yeah, almonds are fine. They're not as high in calories, I don't think, as cashews are.
Pecans are incredibly high, extremely high calorically.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to do that, but that's a good fucking example.
Just stuff that just eat red meat.
I feel like this is a rant we stay on. I agree with the red meat, although, talking about blood work in particular, if you're using PEDs, there may be reason to limit that sometimes. That being said, if you're tracking your fiber, which is a new rant I like to go on, there are studies, Dr. Lane's posting them, there are studies that say soluble fiber can undo the bad things that saturated fat do. So if you're eating a lot of red meat, you should be aware of
how much fiber you're
consuming. Absolutely. That's another topic for another day. You talk about carnivore diet being pretty much void of fiber.
Mm-hmm.
Red meat's not bad for you unless you're not getting enough fiber. So that kind of automatically and there's been times in my life I've been a carnivore apologist to an extent because it does fucking work.
Right.
But probably not the best thing for your blood thickness or your cholesterol.
Right. But then again, when you look at carnivore, a lot of people go to that as a weight loss diet, right?
They do. Yeah.
So it's not same thing with keto. It's a weight loss diet.
It's not
a performance diet. Now
it's really not supposed to be permanent either.
Right. The Mark Bell guys for a long time, they were like carnivore. This is the way. This is how I stay lean and stay, fit and my performance in the gym, and they saw all this stuff. And over time, Mark Bell himself is kind of just I like to eat fruit and I like to add in some veggies and stuff, peppers.
Yeah.
He's just not eating a ton of carbs. He's still adding in foods that
he's
have
getting fiber. Yeah, exactly.
He's adding in fibrous foods.
Yeah,
he's not just
much more. It reminds me of the paleo diet, but it's a little bit more extreme. Have you seen the raw diet, stuff like that?
The raw diet?
It's like carnivore plus fruits and vegetables.
That makes sense.
It's not very far off from paleo, but they are intentionally trying to eat raw fruits and vegetables.
Right.
And a lot of that has a lot to do with
getting the fiber they
need and everything like that. And there's a ton of micronutrients and those things that you need. They're very likely to be in red meat, but they're not in all meat.
Right.
There's things that work, but I don't know, man. It's all these things are kind of things we've discussed and talked about, but again, square peg round hole, right? And then you also the frustrating thing about diet and body composition and powerlifting is you are watching people that look better than you beat you badly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's got to be the most frustrating
thing.
And
still people say, oh, I got to have more of this, more of this, more of this, and it goes straight to their waistline, doesn't go to their total, and they want to know why the fuck they're not better. It's because it was. If me and you both weigh 275, I guarantee you the stronger athlete's the one with better body composition.
Right. 100%.
100%. Yeah, like, I mean, you know, like you said, you don't play the game to get beat, and anything can happen on a meet day. But just looking at two 275-pound athletes, my money would be on the guy that is visibly better body composition loss. It's not that hard.
No.
There's some instincts and some nature involved here, like beyond just like
I mean, genuinely though, you think about like your fight or flight. Like when you see a dude that's like more built than you, even if you're heavy, you kind of like, oh shit, like
that's a big motherfucker.
I don't want to mess with that guy.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
He's visibly just like intimidating because there's more visible muscle mass on them.
100%.
And I get that all the time at work. Like, and I'm not the biggest guy ever.
Yeah.
But around there, I'm the biggest guy ever.
Yeah,
like,
sure, yeah.
And it's always funny to me when people are like that, and I'm just like, I don't know what to say because I'm not that big. Like, you should see the other guy, right? Like, nah, but I don't know.
I mean,
there is something about that though, just like
instinctually. That for sure. But I mean, again, going back to what you said and what you were quoting me from something I said before, but mass moves mass, but muscle mass moves more mass. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's the mass that works for you, that actively does the lifting, is more important than just mass.
And obviously, you know, we're not saying you need to be 3% body fat because then your performance is going to
absolutely. There's definitely a fucking sweet spot.
I think it's like 9 to 10%. Isn't
that
about the sweet spot?
I think that CrossFit used to make this claim too, because there was a time, especially like Rich Froning era CrossFit, where their athletes were obviously very, very, very built and very, very athletic people. But, you know, you had people winning these events that were like between 8 and 12% body fat.
Yeah.
Wouldn't walk on a bodybuilding stage and do well.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they're like, why? Well, because you actually need fat stores for endurance.
Right,
like, I mean,
exactly.
That's literally the natural reason for body fat. Like,
right.
Endurance.
Fat is stored energy.
Yeah, stored energy. Yeah. I mean, so your favorite NFL running back isn't 10% body fat. Well, they may be, but they're not just absolutely shredded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Probably a fucking reason for that, because they got to fucking tote that fucking ball 20, 25 times a game, and they need energy to sustain it. Like,
yep.
So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a point of diminishing returns, but like, there's really no reason for a powerlifter in any weight class other than super heavyweight to be above about 15% body fat.
And
that's by, I'll say this too, that's by total scan, including your visceral fat, which is not something that's going to be taken into account when you talk about a bodybuilder being 3%. That does not include their visceral fat levels. So, but like total body fat, visceral fat included, there's no reason for a powerlifter, a competitive powerlifter at a high level, unless they're super heavyweight. There's no reason for them to be over 15%. Yeah. I've heard Joe say it. Heathen Strong. I'm trying to think of his Instagram handle. I can't think of his actual name. Great powerlifting coach. He talks about it. Every off season, he says you should try to lose 10% of your body weight and gain it back. Cool.
I mean, it was successful for me.
That's not a huge number. Like, I'm probably 280 right now. That's 28 pounds. I know that sounds bad, but he's not talking about doing it in 6 weeks. He's talking about doing it over the course of your off season. Like I said, so you're talking about 8, 12 weeks, something like that. That's not an incredible amount of weight to lose just to look better. And another thing about this too, and people completely fucking miss this, you can overeat and bust your weight cap, right? Like very easily. People miss weight, have to compete the next one up, right? That's very, very bad if you're somebody like me and you're 275 or 308 and I weigh in 309 and now I have to go compete with super heavyweights.
Right.
Well, great. Now there's a 300-pound swing in the total. And, I've disadvantaged myself, right? But what you're doing by cutting is you're earning a future caloric surplus.
Yeah.
A caloric surplus that you're going to need much more in prep and in your peak than you do in your off-season training. And people are so short, including myself, are so fucking short-sighted about that. Like if you haven't made weight by the time prep starts and know you can't make weight via a water cut, you're too fucking heavy.
Yeah. I mean, you're too fucking heavy. Right. We were talking about it. I don't know if it was on the show before the show. Like I'm 3.5 kilos up. I'm going to try and like diet down.
Yeah.
But if I can't, I know I can water cut that. Like that's nothing. Like I've water cut 13 pounds.
You're not going
like,
from 4,000 to 2,500 calories a day.
Right.
Though. I mean, you're doing it responsibly.
Yeah. We're taking off a couple calories for the next, or probably like a couple hundred calories for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah.
4 weeks from tomorrow. So.
Again, talk about what Dr. Mike said. Not taking away so much food that's going to negatively impact gym performance.
Mm-hmm. And you know that the cool thing about it is like if I get close, like let's say I get, 2 pounds off, a kilo off. All I got to do is take a whole bottle of mag citrate, shit my guts out before I go to weigh in. I'll probably lose those couple pounds.
If we have to, we'll go find you a place for an IV. Fucking get you a bag of saline.
We won't need
smooth
that.
Sailing, but but the option's there. If we needed it,
I was considering that though, like getting stuff for an IV.
I'll say this again. So I completely support Nathan if he decides he does a water cut because he has a protocol that works and he trusts. But unless you're going to go break national records like Nathan could potentially do, or you're going to go win big money, I don't know that a water cut's necessarily the best thing. Ideally,
for like the new powerlifters, amateur powerlifters, you should not water cut.
Even up to like higher level intermediates. To be honest with you,
if you're not going, if you're not going with something in mind, like even it doesn't have to be national records. It could just be state records. But if you're not going with something in mind, a certain dot, a qualifying dot,
I really believe in training at your platform weight.
Yeah,
and a lot of that, like I said, comes from did you earn a caloric surplus in your off season?
Mm-hmm.
You need it the most during that time.
Yep.
100%. Not everybody can do it as responsibly as Nathan. I trust what he's doing right now, but like realistically, if you're a 275, you should be training somewhere between 270 and 280.
Yep.
During your prep and your peak.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be within striking distance of your body weight, of your platform weight, the week of weigh-ins.
And, if you're someone who's like concerned about a water cut, has never done a water cut, you don't know what it looks like, maybe you just shouldn't. Like you said, like maybe you should just like make sure you're in your weight class for whatever weight class you're competing in,
There's so much to say though, and I think the biggest takeaway from this, we got on the water cut tangent, is learning to earn the caloric surplus is so incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
I think Austin's about to have a really good meet, and a lot of that is because Austin has been a lot 275 for a long time. I have tossed around the idea of maybe cutting to 242, but now what he's done, because he's been walking around 250 pounds, is he's earned a surplus from here until the day he competes.
Yeah.
He's going to make weight, probably come under still.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be the strongest he's ever been because he's
well fed,
like didn't have to water cut, nothing like that. That's going to be incredibly advantageous for us. What happens on the platform happens on the platform, but Austin, regardless of what his total is in October, will be the strongest Austin has ever been. And that's due in part because of having earned a caloric surplus. A caloric surplus does a lot of things for recovery. You're less injury prone in a caloric surplus. There's so many things that go into this. Yep. You get in a chemical level, protein synthesis is better. That obviously affects recovery. Higher carb intake is probably going to allow you to sleep better because it's better for growth hormone. There's so much that goes in. So much that goes into it. If you sleep better, you perform better, you build more muscle. I've had clients and I can prove this on a scan. I don't have scans with me, but I've had clients that upped their calories and lost body fat percentage.
Yeah.
Like if you build enough muscle and you're active enough, you can do that. Like 100%. Doesn't happen all the time.
The big thing there is, your BMR goes up with the more muscle mass you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So typically if they're eating more and they're building more muscle,
BMR goes up 50 calories for every pound of muscle gained. So, you think about that. Think about a larger athlete that's chronically underfed because they don't want to be fat.
Right.
That happens out a whole lot. I've had a lot of people like my size, myself included, that drop body fat percentage because they were actually eating enough for a change.
Yep.
Because they're actually fueling their workouts, actually getting to where they're calorically advantaged to build muscle, to operate better. Now this does still come, I don't really condone a dirty bulk. I'm not a dirty bulk coach. I don't believe in that. But, I've had people move their calories up 500, 600, even up to 1,000 and actually look better after having gained the weight.
Yep.
I mean,
well, they fill out their frame.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're a bigger dude and you've always been calorically disadvantaged because you don't want to be fat and stuff like this, and then all of a sudden you get into the sport and you're like, fuck, I need to be stronger. The easiest thing to reach for is sleeping food, hydration, sleeping food. Like, I'm going to stop eating like an asshole and just eat more. I'm actually going to get more food calorically and volume-wise, and I'm going to get better. I'm going to look better and feel better, and I'm going to be stronger. That's fucking cool.
Sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody would shake their head at that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like,
I don't know. There's some people who really don't like to eat. Genuinely do not like to eat.
I have people drink calories.
That's true.
I have a bodybuilder who's a physique guy, just moved over to powerlifting, has a really hard time eating the calories that I want him to eat. He's at 3,300 minimum with the ultimate goal of like 3,300 is a bad day. Can't go under 3,300. With the ultimate goal of 4,000 a day.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't physically eat no more. Cool. Fucking drink it.
Yep. Mix your protein
OJ
shake,
and salt.
orange juice, any sort of juice. Cranberry juice is good for your blood work.
Yeah, most of the time in a bulk, you don't need protein as much on a bulk because protein synthesis is better. So, you probably, I would say 9 times out of 10, unless you just chronically undereat protein, 9 times out of 10, you probably want to reach for more carbs. Stay in, lower fat things. Probably don't want to. We talked about this before, because fat is literally adipose tissue. It's more likely to store as adipose tissue. So keeping fat low, carbs high, protein high, even in a bulk, super fucking important.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, fattier things are calorically advantaged. If you have, they are more said the term calorie dense.
Yeah.
They can be, if you're having a problem with food volume, they can be easier things to reach for just to get your total calories up. Still, ideally, would like, for most of us, somebody my size, under 120 grams of fat. Most people, I'm going to keep them under about 90 grams of fat, even in a bulk. So,
and I think also you have to consider, because most of the time the minimal fat is because of hormone health. You want a certain amount.
Brain health, hormone health. Yep.
Dr. Mike said it best. If you're getting your hormones from a bottle, you don't need as much.
Fair.
So. If you are on PEDs, you don't actively need as much in the fat. I
remember your diet with Joe was nearly fucking fat-free.
Yeah. Fat-free milk, cereal that had less than 1 gram of fat, 1 gram or less, excuse me. Rice, chicken. I would get steak once on my off days. And everything else was rice and chicken, I believe. And some vegetables.
Yep.
That was it. That was my whole diet. And cashews. Yep. That was most of my fat was cashews. So, and it was not a lot. It was a handful
and it was,
a day.
You would agree, even calorically is a pretty extreme amount of food.
It was a lot. It felt like I was going to explode.
There was times you were eating 3+ cups of rice in a sitting.
In one sitting, yeah. Anywhere between 3 and 5. On top of the 6 to 8 ounces of chicken.
That goes to show you too. How calorically dense foods could be beneficial, but at the same time, like as Nathan said, fats becomes a little bit unnecessary when, like you said, you're getting
them from
your hormones from a bottle. Yeah. It's, a little different. You still need and this is the reason for the nuts. You still need omega-3s for your brain health, your heart health. Overall cholesterol is really good gets better with certain types of fat.
If you're like me and you have blood issues, having the good fats is important.
Is important.
That way you don't, have
there's
a blood clot.
There's a reason why people want you to take fish oil and stuff like that. It's pretty standard shit, right? So, but I don't know. It's a lot of thoughts come at you fast right there. But and I think that the fat powerlifters don't win is maybe my favorite rant now.
Yeah, we've said that a few times.
It is the truth.
And it's not that they can't win. As far as like local stuff, you could still see not saying he's fat or anything, but Tank, pretty heavy guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely
also,
destroyed.
Though, when you look at him, very much can tell he's not. That's another point, though.
Yeah,
that's the point.
He is very much I remember you said it best when you first saw him. He was like, that is the body of a power lifter. Like just
absolutely, 100%.
Just huge. Like he wasn't ripped, he wasn't shredded, but the amount of muscle on that man was just ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was built like a fucking.
You knew he was an
boulder.
athlete by looking. People, if you are an athlete, people should be able to look at you and tell that you're an athlete.
Yep.
That's the reason I kind of made that excuse about Jesus and Dan Bell. There is no doubt if you saw one of those men what they fucking do.
And you know,
You know
something that's
like,
really painfully telling, honestly painfully telling, is that if you see a guy who is like large, maybe not visibly muscular, but large, just look at the way they walk, and that'll tell you everything you need to know. Because if they are large and they are not struggling to move, they're an athlete. Yeah, if they are large and they're like waddling and like they're losing their breath walking, that's not an athlete. Like, I mean, that tells you everything you need.
It really does, and that's a really, really good point. I mean, you can tell an athlete though, the size of their upper back, size of their forearms, size of their thighs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean,
where is the mass at? You
should look like an athlete.
Yeah.
I do a very, very bad job of that personally, but you should look like you should look strong.
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't. It's not a. You're not going to win with a soft body. It's not a soft body sport. It's not. I mean, we're not on a bodybuilding stage. I understand that completely. You don't have to be shredded,
but you have to have muscle.
You do, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, so if we all agree that we need muscle to move weights, then more muscle is better.
More muscle is better.
And if you're capped by a weight class, like all of us are, how much muscle can you put on in that weight class? Yep. Which inherently means, if you want to put muscle on and stay within a cap, you're going to have less body fat.
Yep. Simple math, guys.
Real fucking easy math. Really fucking easy math. I mean,
well, you got anything else?
I don't. You got a dad joke or two?
I can find some.
Do you have any closing thoughts before we find dad jokes?
Not really. I don't think so. I think I was honestly kind of fucking exhausted when we started. I'm feeling a little better now, but I was a little worried that I was going to be brain dead on the whole episode. So I'm just happy that it didn't turn out to be a horrible situation for me.
I do what every American does now. When I open up the phone to do one thing, I look at several other things.
Right? Terrible.
Dad says jokes, people.
So I was walking down the street, and I was hit by a violin, and then a clarinet, and then a French horn. I'm pretty sure it was an orchestrated attack.
That was pretty good. I injured myself while measuring radio frequency. Still hurts.
Still hurts. Yep. A cop pulled me over and said papers. So I yelled scissors and drove off. I got a story real quick about a cop. And I am not an anti-cop guy. Like, they serve a purpose.
Not like his co-host.
But there comes a point when you as a cop have to put aside your need to give tickets and put in perspective that you are there to protect and serve. I was coming home from work, and there's a cop that sits out on the bridge coming from Huntsville going south. Every time, almost every night he's out there. There's a lot of traffic going down. He waits for every single person to pass, and then he pulls out, obviously, right? So I'm watching him. I'm like, this guy's pulled me over before when I was in a rental. He thought I was like a drug dealer or something. Honest to God, he did. Because he flashed his light in the back of I was driving a Jeep at the time. He was looking real hard, and he double took when he saw that there was a car seat in there. He was like, oh shit. Like, I just pulled over the wrong guy. License, registration, whatever. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. Anyway, so he's like, we're going like 65 or something, and I'm trying to keep my distance from the rest of the traffic. And I'm in the left lane trying to pass somebody because they're all kind of going pretty slow. So he doesn't have his lights on, but he's going like 80, whips around, cuts in front of me, and cuts in front of an 18-wheeler to get behind somebody. And I was like, bro, I wish you would have hit me, because I would have sued you. I would have sued, I can't remember, I think it was Hartzell. I would have sued Hartzell PD. Like, that was incredibly dangerous for no good reason. You didn't have your lights on. You weren't in an emergency setting. You were just trying to pull someone over and give them a ticket.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. That sucks. 100%.
Anyway.
Got to generate revenue for your municipality, though. That's their primary function is revenue generation, for the record.
Unfortunately, it's supposed to be protect and serve, but
it's to tax and tax some more is actually it is what it is. That's being said, very close friends of mine are former cops and cops.
Right.
I do really appreciate the good ones. I believe that people that get into it for the right reasons are fucking
blessing.
Great. Or they're a blessing.
They are good people most of the time. Like there's the problem.
Good ones should be paid more. Standards should be higher. That's what I'm going to say.
No, I agree. That's 100% what it should be.
This is the most me joke I've ever heard before in my life. Just saw 3 people jogging outside, and it inspired me to get up and close the blinds.
Fucking runners. I could never be.
You know, I've yet to have somebody ask me what my mile time was, but they always want to know how much I bench press.
I'm telling you, man. Like, nobody.
What's your mile time? A minute if I'm in my car.
There you go.
Fucking 20 if I'm home foot. Like,
I'm not trying.
But I can bench press a fucking Buick.
Girl told me she's Slavic. I've never understood if that was a nationality or an ethnicity. I said, "What is Slav?" And she gave me a dirty look, so I said, "Baby, don't hurt me."
It's a little bit of a build-up.
Yeah, that one took a minute to get there. It's kind of like, what the fuck is going on?
I was abducted by aliens. They made me wash my hands, clean my room, and eat my vegetables. It turns out I was on the mothership.
That's pretty good. So when you die, people cry and beg for you to come back. But when you do, they freak out.
Zombie Nathan.
It's true though. Like I thought about that one for a long time because I was like, man, that's so like if somebody were to come back, like literally
just pop up out of the coffin and be like, "Hey, dead yet?"
Like, "Hey, I heard you guys wanted me back, so here I am." We freak out like
and shit their pants right there on the fucking.
Probably shoot you. They probably like, "Oh, it's a fucking zombie." Like everybody's pre-programmed.
We are in Alabama. Like the likelihood of there being a gun in the building at a funeral is pretty fucking high,
right?
Especially if they're my friends.
It's just like that would be awful though. Like come back and just like freak out and shoot you, and then you die, and you're like, oh fuck, like
had to go through that twice.
That fucking sucks. You know, there's a movie coming out with Robert Pattinson about I forget the name of it. It's like something 12, Micah 12, something like that. But it's like that's basically what it is. Is like he's constantly dying and then coming back. So, but like, I forget what they call them. They're like an expendable or something. So like they send them out to do like dangerous work and they usually die, but then they come back and like they just keep recycling this over and over and over again. It looks really interesting, honestly. I kind of want to see it. I'm not a big Robert Pattinson fan, but
where are you? Don't mean to turn this philosophical, but do you ever feel like the idea of non-playable characters is kind of like fucking real? You ever see somebody and they're just like, that motherfucker's an NPC? Like,
I mean,
like in the world of sports and politics, I feel like I see NPCs all the time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean in politics, I feel like it's a lot more prevalent.
Yeah, that's just who I am.
But
I'm fucking programmed by the Matrix,
right? Oh man, the world. I don't
know. Especially I'm deeply empathetic and emotionally pretty intelligent for a man. I think I say I'm emotionally the most intelligent because I am a man, and I think we are void of that a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
But I often wonder. I was like, I don't think these people really don't.
They don't seem like real people.
They only exist in their own world.
Yeah,
like really, like there is some like humanity that is fucking missing from this person. If that makes sense. Like,
it's funny because I was just watching a YouTube video and they were talking about main character syndrome, and it's like when you know what that is.
Yeah,
like when you think you're the main character, so no, everybody else is an NPC. Like that kind of like mentality. So it's just kind of funny that you brought up are people NPCs. Like,
yeah. You know, I worry about that though. But I think the fact that if you are somebody like that has like main character syndrome, that means inherently that you probably aren't, because you're emotionally intelligent enough to have the thought. And you know what I'm saying? Like if you have main character syndrome, you never occurs to you. You probably are never introspective enough to say, Am I being that way? Right. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure. 100%.
But that's like a fear, actually, a little bit. Like, I don't want to like commandeer things to the point that like everybody thinks it's about me. You know what I mean?
Right. I get that.
That's I think we're all capable of that, but I don't want to be like, you know, I don't want to be.
You don't be known for
casual conversation.
Yeah, like, known for that. Oh yeah, he thinks he's the main character.
So that happens, but that happens a lot. Like mental health conversations and stuff. Like, it's not super emotionally intelligent to automatically relate somebody's situation back to yours, but that's something that happens a lot when you talk about mental health. Mm-hmm. You say, "Hey, I suffer from CPTSD is my diagnosis." Right? Yeah. Talk to somebody else from that too, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I know this. And this happened to me." And it's like start trading fucking stories, right? And you're like, "This person's having a hard time," and I just kind of like,
right.
You know what I mean? And in an effort to make them feel better, I kind of actually commandeered.
Right.
The whole fucking conversation.
I get that. I do the same thing, because I think at the end of the day, what that is we're trying to
be empathetic and relatable.
Right. Yeah. You're trying to relate to them. Like, I've been through this too. I understand what you're going through. And to some extent, like, I find as an individual, sometimes I find that comforting. Like, somebody has been through this. Somebody does know what it's like. And sometimes it's like, man, I don't want you to tell me that. Like, I just kind of want you to just listen. So it kind of just depends on.
I think that's the problem. Is it makes you not a listener,
right?
You know what I mean? It kind of, you want to relate to them because they're having a tough time, but it also closes off the idea that you can just listen to their problems.
I think there's a balance there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's one thing to be like, oh man, I went through this. Like you say, you had a problem. Oh man, I went through this like 2 years ago. What are you trying to do? Like, asking them about it. Like, sure. what are your plans? Like, how are you gonna? Do you want some advice? Like, asking, not instead of giving advice, asking.
I think the problem with that kind of stuff too, and we'll wrap it up after this. In an effort to be empathetic and everything like that, you do these things, right? Like everybody does. You want to relate to somebody, but I also do think that it's something that's like harped on because society tells you it's a problem. You know what I mean? I don't think it's necessarily bad to try to relate to somebody all the time. I do think that's something that's like disproportionately put in the negative light because of social media and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
Like, I don't think, I've struggled mightily with my mental health. I've never just been outright offended because somebody
was trying to relate
or, you know what I mean? Like, that might, to some extent, that might be a made-up problem.
Right.
But that being said, it would be annoying if I'm trying to get a point across and they're just like stepping on it. You know what I mean? Right. That would be frustrating. But like, I'm not going to be mad at somebody and be like, oh yeah, you CPTSD, me too. I went through this, and this. I'm not necessarily going to be mad about that.
Right.
So I do think that's probably one of those social norms that get shit on a lot that probably isn't due the negative connotation that it gets, if that makes sense.
I get what you're saying. I'm trying to think of kind of like when all that started. I think, truthfully, there's probably a lot of, we'll call it self-therapy. That makes sense.
People self-diagnose.
Yeah, and they read stuff and they're like, and they take all that in, and that's where a lot of that probably comes from.
Everybody's sick now. Everybody's crazy now if you talk to them. And I think that's probably true because everybody experiences these things, right? Like, me and you talked about it before. Like, you have been depressed.
Yeah.
I think you would agree that doesn't necessarily mean that you have depression.
Right.
As the clinical.
Yeah.
So in the clinicals. And you might. I'm just saying. But there is a difference. Like, everybody can experience heartache, suicidal thoughts.
Yep.
A bad situation. That doesn't necessarily mean it's diagnosable.
I think the difference, at least when it comes to depression, I think the difference is, are you recovering from it or not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
if you're not recovering from it,
if it's a cycle, if it's cyclical,
if it's something that's continuous, like I know, and I talk about it on the podcast several times, through the darkest point of my life where I was incredibly depressed and I had every single symptom you could imagine. Like, I didn't want to eat anything, constantly sad. Life didn't have a whole lot of meaning. Sure. Everything, the the example, everything tastes like mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
That was my life.
Yeah.
For a period of time. But I got over it.
Yeah.
Like, not to put it in a light way of saying, oh, I just got over it. It took time. It took a lot of time. It took several months. It took working on myself. It took, putting myself in positions where I wasn't going to be thinking about it so much, not necessarily ignoring it, but trying not to let it. I think I may have said this before. There's an example where depression is this big ball in a room and it's touching every corner. And as time goes on, the ball gets smaller and it doesn't touch as many corners as often. And it gets smaller and smaller and smaller to the point where it occasionally touches a wall and it hurts. You think about it, but it doesn't hurt for very long.
Yeah.
And just that's kind of like, I would call like depressive episodes or like suffering from a, not a clinical diagnosis, but just like an event that caused you to be depressed for a period of time.
People should just be more careful about how they talk about it. Like, really, really common when I actually have a client that we've had on the podcast before diagnosed OCD, like, to the point that if he feels like something he was supposed to do with that day was undone and he's laying in bed that night,
he has to get up and fix it.
He has to get up and go fix it or finish it or whatever the situation. I mean, to the point that it can be debilitating for him. You hear all the time people say, oh, I'm OCD. I'm this, I'm that.
It's like, no, I have to move this over here because I'm OCD.
No, motherfucker, you're just particular.
Yeah.
You're not, this is not fucking, if it's not keeping you up at night, it's probably, you're not really fucking, this is really not but you got to be careful about how you talk about things. It's like, this person actually suffers.
Right.
Just because you're particular about how you want things does not make you obsessive compulsive.
Right.
It doesn't. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. But people abuse the way they talk about things. Like I said, you get on social media now, everybody's got CPTSD, PTSD, anxiety, depression, BPD, bipolar disorder, fucking anything you can think of. Like, you might, truthfully. I mean, I think it's good that it's talked about and it's as prevalent as it is. But
have you been to a doctor about it?
Yeah, you need to go to a doctor, because what you do is you start diminishing real problems other people have.
You make it widespread. You make it common.
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
other people are actually in much worse positions than you are.
Yeah, that takes away from actual tragedies, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Weird tangent.
Yep. Lots of tangents.
It is the Tangent 5.
You
ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, I was just looking at the date today because I think October 6th is next Sunday, right? I think so something to look forward to. Hopefully we should have a guest on that we've talked about before. Won't say any names just in case something happens, but we do have a guest planned kind of suddenly, and we'll talk about that on Sunday, but just look forward to that. Yep,
it's gonna be good shit. So follow us on Instagram at Coleman_barbell, at Nathan Skedios, at Sip It Rip It. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us on YouTube, leave comments, likes, rate us 5 stars. Don't be a hoe, share the show. That's the sign off. Bye, y'all. That was the sign off.